And tonight at 6, we're tracking the potential for some pop-up storms after another hot and muggy day all across central Indiana.
And that's just one of the weather-related stories that we're following for you tonight. This Tuesday heat isn't going anywhere quite yet. Look at all that red. You can see it there. We still have several days left of this hot, muggy weather.
And that's why you're seeing the phrase weather impact alert day most of this week. So we want to start tonight here in the Weather Center. Angela's tracking those hot temps and the chance for some storms, huh?
Yes, we will start with the hot temps because that's really impacting everybody.
Right.
Those storms kind of few and far between, but they are having an impact where they hit with heavy rain, gusty winds, and lots of lightning. Feels like temperatures again topping 100 in several locations. It feels like 104 right now in Avon. Feels like 100 in Fishers. Feels like 104 in Shelbyville. High heat, high humidity. It is uncomfortable out there, and that's been the case start to finish today. We're at 90 degrees in Noblesville, 94 Carmel, 94 Crawfordsville, and 83 degrees in Brown County. Crawfordsville in some locations might be rain cooled just a bit. You can see the heavy rain has stopped but left behind some water on the streets here in Montgomery County along 231. There is the storm that rolled through Crawfordsville. It is now impacting the central sections of Montgomery County with a little bit of lightning. Let's head south. We've got some spotty storms south and west of Bloomfield, Spencer, Ellettsville, and Bloomington. Bedford will keep an eye on this for you as most of these storms are moving from west to east, and we've got a cell just to the west of Richmond right now. Headed out to Victory Field, be prepared for a hot night, but it's dollar menu night. Temperatures close to 90 degrees for that 7:05 first pitch. A storm or two tomorrow, hot again, low 90s.
Yeah, and as Angela mentioned there, this hot weather really can be dangerous. Just how so? We reached out to the Indianapolis EMS today, and we asked about the number of calls that they've been getting so far in these high temps.
Yeah, so we're talking about calls for things like dehydration, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and sunstroke. They got 6 of those calls last Friday, saying that's an extremely high number. They had a similar number of calls over the weekend.
But the numbers really then jumped in a big way yesterday, more than doubling the highest total from the weekend. First responders say they answered 13 calls related to heat across Indianapolis.
And tonight at 6, we're getting our first look at the results of an annual study that breaks down how much money Americans donate every year and who's receiving those donations.
As our Emily Longnecker now explains tonight, this research could play an even more vital role in the work of nonprofits going forward.
You don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to have tens of thousands of dollars to give.
And some of the people who come through Jennifer Bartenbach's door at the Central Indiana Community Foundation don't. They just know they want to give something, and CICF helps them figure out where their money will have the most impact.
We are an incredibly charitable place in this country, which makes our jobs even easier here. But also makes them more important.
And with a shift in funding priorities on the horizon at the state and federal levels, Indiana's 50,000 or so nonprofits could need those donations more than ever.
You know, when we're talking about food and housing and mental health at a time that's incredibly important, you're seeing dollars shift away from those organizations, and it's going to be critical for donors to step in and fill the gap.
When Americans see that there's a need, they've been willing to step up.
That's what Dr. Una Osili says an annual study on giving in the United States has shown over the years.
Generosity, as we say, knows no boundaries, and I think the data definitely speaks to that point.
Every year, the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy partners with the Giving USA Foundation to study who donates, how much they donate, and the kinds of organizations they donate to. According to the study, last year, giving in the United States outpaced inflation for the first time in 3 years. And of the more than $590 billion donated in 2024, 2/3 of it came from individuals.
The numbers are really important, but behind those numbers are people, are individuals who are making those donations.
And on the other side of those donations are people too, like the ones right here in Indiana who rely on services from nonprofits. But with nonprofits facing increasing uncertainty around funding sources, charitable donations from people, foundations, and corporations could play a greater role in filling in the gap. In Indianapolis, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
If you'd like to get an in-depth look at those results, you can go to WTHR.com.
Tonight, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran appears to be holding strong after initial reports of the agreement being violated. Now, an Indiana lawmaker is reacting to that deal and what comes next.
Senator Todd Young says he'll be briefed on the next steps for the United States a little later this week. President Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran nearly 2 weeks after those two countries began attacking each other. This deal also comes days after the U.S. launched attacks on nuclear facilities in Iran.
Senator Young says he's now focused on the next steps for the country.
We got to keep our eye on the prize. That's really what we're focused on here from an American interest. And we need to be sure that we properly scope our efforts so that we aren't dragged into a larger conflict.
Young said he expected to be briefed on those next steps today. However, his team now tells us that meeting is postponed until Thursday, so the Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth can attend. Tonight, several Henry County officials here in Indiana are being sued. They're accused of covering up sexual abuse by a former community corrections officer.
So these lawsuits claim that several people knew of the alleged abuse and allowed it to happen. So according to the court documents, 2 men filed complaints claiming former Henry County Community Corrections Deputy Director Jason Bertram sexually abused them.
And when they spoke up about it, county officials reportedly already knew of previous abuse that had taken place, but allegedly did nothing. Named in that lawsuit, several officials, including members of the Henry County Community Corrections and the Henry County Sheriff's Office.
Dozens of new laws will take effect here in Indiana a week from today.
And they're diverse. They cover everything from education to infrastructure and how lawmakers are hoping to save you money. Samantha Johnson breaks down a few of the big talkers.
It's been a busy year for Indiana lawmakers. They passed 247 laws this legislative session. That's according to the Indianapolis Bar Association. A big focus this year was property taxes. And starting July 1st, new changes could limit how much your property bill would go up, which could provide some tax relief long term.
Another big talker is the speed limit on 465. Most areas will bump up to 65 miles per hour starting next month.
The majority of the roadway is designed for 65 miles per hour with the exception of that northwest corner.
Next, lawmakers passed more than 24 laws surrounding education in Indiana. Candidates for local school boards will have to declare their political party affiliation, and college students will not be able to use their student ID as proof of identification to vote. Plus, other laws change K-12 curriculum to focus on improving math scores, limiting sex ed, and increasing teacher pay. When it comes to law enforcement, Indiana county jails will be required to tell a sheriff if deputies suspect an inmate is an undocumented immigrant. The sheriff will then tell ICE agents. Plus, lawmakers passed a law banning offering jobs or student aid to people based on personal characteristics like race, sex, or religion.
Changes are also coming to Medicaid. Soon the state will require income verification. Plus, new laws will actually add restrictions on who can join the Healthy Indiana plan, including a cap on how many people can enroll. I know this is a lot of information. There's a lot of details involved. So we break down these new laws and so many more at WTHR.com. In Indianapolis, Samantha Johnson, 13 News.